vote for them and if it do 8 years. God go punish them.
In the Greater Accra region, however, contractors working on some deplorable roads in the Medina municipality have abandoned the site yet again, less than a week after returning. Once again, they blame the rains.
You bring these two machines just to grade a thing, but yet we are feeling the same difficulties. That's why we demonstrate for. Nothing I've done with the road. You cannot bring this machine and come and do something short this, and you just rain. Rain, they are still falling. Then themselves, they...
Also here on Joy News Prime, we'll talk tidal waves, the dead being exhumed, students fearing for their education and the loss of property in the Volta region.
We can't even focus to learn because the way the sea is coming to hit the wall.
It hits the wall?
Yeah, it hits the wall,
okay.
And the sun is always disturbing us every day.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
We'll take you live to the shelter coming up in business.
Ghana to host governors of central banks and finance ministers from all over the continent as it signs agreement with the African Development Bank to host its annual meetings next year.
Any country is welcome to ask some kind of support to deal with maybe the shocks that may have been, experienced as a result of the COVID pandemic.
Charles Aite will bring us details later in the bulletin. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Fanofa studios at Tukumlemle here in Accra. You're live on DSTV, channel 421, Go TV 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. I am Ernest Mino. Stay tuned in. Hello again, many thanks for joining us. Now, crossing the Bupe Bridge in the Savannah region can be a nightmare. Drivers have no choice but to slump into the potholes that are filled with water as a result of the rains. A few meters away from the bridge, they are left with no option but to pay the road toll. Jojo Kobna reports that the drivers are unhappy with the situation and are calling on government to repair the road.
The Kintampo to Bupe stretch is where vehicle shock absorbers go to die. Vehicles groan as they slump into potholes on that stretch. Drivers try dodging flood-filled potholes, but it is always a pointless and fruitless venture because they are left with no choice but to ease into the potholes. Saloon cars wade into pools of mud. Riding motorbikes through the mud is a difficult venture, especially with passengers on board. A passenger would have to get down for the motorbike to cross. What adds to the pain and chagrin of drivers is the presence of a toll booth. Drivers are not happy.
They vote for them and if it do 8 years. God go punish them.
We've been driving for some kilometers now. The road was fine until we met this, and I was asking my driver that what happened. He seems not to have any idea, but he's been driving on this road for some time now, and he's saying that that's how it's been. But I think it's very terrible, and the unfortunate thing is that there is a toll booth just ahead of us. So I asked myself, what's this money going? Where is it going? Whose coffers? Whose pockets? How come this road cannot be fixed? Whilst there's just a toll booth some few kilometers or meters away. So I think the government has to do something about this road.
That time you know the car is down. So when you are coming, as such as the potholes. But the toll that we are paying, it doesn't have use. What they're supposed to do here, but they're not. And what I want to tell them, I will tell them say they're supposed to do the road so that it will be good for us to be passing.
So a quick travel advisory: when you're traveling to the north and you get to Bupe, your vehicle will slump into potholes. Depending on the nature of your vehicle, it may be baptized in mud. Then a few meters after that, you would have to pay a road toll with a straight face and also without complaining. That is if you're traveling from the south to the north. Until government works on this road, you will pay the road toll on your return, then slump into some more potholes at Buipe before heading to Kintampo. Jojo Cobnan, Joy News.
Roads within the Madina and Kwantanan municipality in the Greater Accra region have moved from bad to worse just 2 weeks after Member of Parliament for the area, Francis Xavier Susu, led residents there to demand immediate government action. Contractors working on sections of the road returned to the site last week after a year of absence over what the MC called prolonged rains. But it is imagined that less than a week after returning, the contractors have abandoned site again due to the rains. Manuel Cranton visited the area and now reports.
The sounds of vehicles, heavy and light, as they struggle to meander through large potholes, their tires splashing against deep puddles on sections of the Damfa Utinibi roads. Residents in these communities, together with others from Taiman, Abokubi, Ayimensa and other areas all within the La Madina and Kwantanan municipality, hit the streets on Monday, October 26, to demand immediate government attention in fixing the roads. A demonstration which will land the MP, Francis Xavier Susu, in a row with the police. As the case progresses in court, the main reason for the protest, the deplorable roads, have moved from bad to worse.
See the water. You yourself, can you use your foot leg to that side? You yourself see the road. There's no any way. The children are suffer. See the school. We have government school over here, but there's no anything going on. With that car, we can't go where we are going to.
Because I had to go down there, and trust me, like I had to return because I couldn't continue the journey. It's really terrible.
So if it rains a lot, I have to park my car here, then walk, so that the next day or the next 2 days, then I'll come and pick my car. It's very terrible. So the government has to really do something about it for us. We are suffering here.
And since last year, since August, we have never had a peace. Anytime it rains, terrible, very terrible, very terrible, very, very terrible. And this road is very simple. When you are going to Ebri from here, you don't have to go through Adenta barrier. You just drive through a distance about 5-10, then you are off. But now, when we are going to Adenta from here, when we are going to Ebri from here, you don't pass there. We pass, we go to Adenta and go.
We need the road to be made to work for us. I don't know why. Look at this road. Look how I'm sweating. It tells you much that I'm not being like, I'm not feeling like Ghanaians. The road should be done. You know, this fire would go to somewhere. Look at the hours I spent. Hours lost, money lost. My car will also go bad. So please, we beg, you should try to work on the road for us.
Contractors working on the road had a week ago returned to site after close to a year of being absent. Their stay on site, however, did not last more than a week.
Talk say, contractor, how they give you excuse, no? If you are a contractor, where you say rain, you understand? The rain there, they fall, where you not go to do anything about the rain. So you wait for come to the site, then they see the faults. Because if you say rain, where you go there, where you do the thing where the rain can spoil and get, which type of contractor are you? They want the contract, they give you money. So by now, I'm expecting for now, at least, if I don't give excuse about rain matter. You know, as a contractor, when rain is falling, you have to be at the site. So when you are at the site, you can see where this thing is coming from. You bring these two machines just to grade the thing, but yet we are feeling the same difficulties. That's why we demonstrate for. Nothing I've done with the road. You cannot bring this machine and come and do something short this, and you just rain. Rain there is still falling. Then themselves, they know.
MC for the area, Jennifer Dede Jabing, who had earlier referred to the demonstration as needless, said the delay was due to the rains. The same rains whose impact is expected to be corrected by the construction of the roads, at least for the school children who are rendered immobile whenever it rains.
We are on afternoon shift, and it rained heavily. So sometimes we moved our shoes and we walked through the wind. And sometimes we wanted to take car, but the car did not pick us. So we walked heavily in the rain. The rain beat us. Yes, our boots got wet.
Yeah. People did not come to school. About 15 or yes.
Oh, we feel bad. because we are suffering a lot. Sometimes when it's raining, the car can tell us we should drop and walk through the rain because the car cannot pass through. So sometimes we walk.
The government should help us do our road so that we, the school children, we always feel happy when walking on the road.
The trucks have been parked, just like they have been parking for close to a year now since the contract was awarded to them. For now, the residents and motorists who ply this particular road would have to endure for some more time until when the contractor is ready to work on the road. For Joy News, my name is Manuel Kranting.
Essential social amenities in the Ketu South municipality are under threat as violent tidal waves continue to pound roads, residential buildings and schools. Some of the residents in one of the affected communities have started relocating a cemetery which has been partly submerged. The roads connecting communities from Salekope to Keta have deteriorated as a result of the tidal flooding. More than 1,000 residents are homeless and seeking shelter in a local church.
Now, I'm currently at the Amuchinu community, and the community school here itself is also getting its fair share of the devastation being caused by the high tides here in this part of the country. The students, when they are studying, the pupils, when they are studying, when they are in there, they can have a good view of the ocean. You've seen some of them there. Let's try and see if we can interact with some of them who were actually seated outside here studying.
The sea, first time the sea, the distance between the sea is very far. By this time, the sea is closer to us. Sometimes the sea can even come here, then we can flow through this area. Then sometimes disturb our knowledge. We can't even learn. And we can't even focus to learn because the way the sea is coming to hit the wall.
It hits the wall?
Yeah, it hits the wall, okay. And the sun is always disturbing us every day.
Okay, okay. Now you can see visible cracks already in this structure. I'm told that this building used to be quite taller, you know, and there was no way I was going to be able to reach the height of this school building. But now, because of the high tides and because the ocean is drawing closer, now it's very easy for me to even touch the ceiling here. So we have with us also here assessing the situation, the chairman for the Volta Region MP's Caucus, Emmanuel Kwesi Bedra, here with us. Is also on the ground assessing the situation. Honorable, is your constituency affected by this?
No, at all. I'm also a member of the Western Housing Committee. Okay. Let me also add that we were here some years back when the city fence, the first phase was completed. We were here to inspect it. And so this place has not been reclaimed, and therefore the easier way is for the city to pass here, because this place has not been reclaimed. And so we'll have this, you know, till it gets to a flower. Now, if we don't continue, if we don't complete the loop by claiming what the sea has taken, we'll have this problem forever. It's not only perennial, it will continue forever. And so my urgent appeal to this government is to continue the first phase.
I'll go live to Maxwell at the shelter at Salekope. Well, Maxwell, what can you report?
Get to know the true length of a frog after it dies. Here at Salekope, we're beginning to see the extent of damage caused by the high tides here in Salekope as night falls. Now, I've seen quite a number of people moving to other communities to spend the night. I've seen some of them boarding vehicles to go to Keta to go and spend the night. I've seen some of them moving to higher ground to go and spend the night. Some of the people I met who on their way to do that told me that their beddings are still, they tell me that most of the things in their rooms are wet. Their mattresses are wet as a result of the high tides that entered their rooms. So they are unable to sleep on their mattresses, and they are better off sleeping in the homes of families and relatives. I've seen some of them also boarding vehicles moving to other communities. But what is happening here, this church which actually served as a shelter for most of the people who were affected by the high tides. There's church service going on. So what it means is that for those who are using this church as a shelter, they would have to wait for church service to end before they can sleep. And you can see one of them is here. She's an old woman, who is sitting here. She couldn't stand for this. She had to sit on the chair so we can interact with her. There's another old woman here, quite a number of them. I'm told some of them have moved to other communities already. Let me speak to her. Okay. In case of jump here, the Jomna Church and a Pafi na Vamloni Alunka.
Pagaji ma Vamloni.
Pangafina Mloni. Ike Wafa, Ike Jo, Lower Paji.
Chapo Konya Paji.
Okay. Kafifia Tafara Kamagashu.
Utapara Kamagali Mamloni.
Okay. So what she's saying is that she would have to wait for the church service to end before she can sleep. I asked her where is her house. She told me that her house has been submerged, and so she doesn't have any place where she would lay her head today, and she has to wait for the church service to end before. Malashaba ava dukwayama ejiji yakava chan chafua tepeke ola dola very close na miafia.
Nyamasa nyamatutu.
Okay, maba chafua tama miva aduyama salakofa. Chafua dola very close to me. Kike chafua lafi.
Chafua la kaka ngogbara. Afi.
Okay. So I was asking her that when they first came to this community, how far was the ocean from them? And she tells me that the ocean used to be very, very far away from them. But now it is getting closer and even getting closer to the road that is here. I have another woman who is here with me. Let me speak to her. Daga wa aleko jo afififia church homam lomeno.
Ara kuchapo ba kunyapo akplenya hokata. Ema ba church homam no.
Ha. Na church yamakpa o matencha lo dodo.
O yimata anyim logo. Do papanga fi mamlo nyamya ba robara homam no nyire homo.
Okay. Well, she says that she would have to wait for the church to close before she would lay her mat and then sleep. And as the church service is ongoing, she would have to wait outside. So that is a real situation on the ground. Let me speak to the chief fisherman here. And in fact, you own the church, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, what's your name, sir?
Pastor Wisdom Ejia.
Okay. So how many people have been sleeping here so far?
There are about 15 that way. Some with their children. So they are, personally, about 15, but the old ones, they are about 15. With the children, so they will be about, that is 30 that way.
So how do they sleep? Because I don't see any mosquito nets. I don't see, how do they sleep?
They have, some have mosquito nets and some don't. So they have to patch with the others. And after that, after the church, they will bring it, they have hide them. So some are in the church, so after the church, they will bring them out. And it is a difficult task for this Salakopa. And now, if you can see, the water have taken away. The sea is far. So with a few days, it came and destroyed all their properties, their houses, and all those things. And now, they don't have any place to sleep. And now, if it rains, the other part they have to go to, the rain have taken over that place too. So now we are telling the government to come to our aid because we need them now. If we are in trouble and they come to us, we know that they are our helpers. Now, if they can't do anything about it, it means that they don't even take care of us because they are paying their taxes. If they go to the market, if they buy their things from anywhere, they are paying taxes. So with the taxes, we think they can do much more than what we are saying now.
Okay, I think the residents here are living the idiomatic expression of being caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, where we have the deep blue sea on my left-hand side, and then the devil being the lagoon, which is here, because some hours ago when the tides were high, the water from the ocean actually crossed the road here and then entered the lagoon, which is just about 50 meters away from where I'm standing. Let me speak to the chief fisherman here in this community. He is personally affected. In fact, his house, you can just walk through his house and then you see the ocean. If you're in his room, you can hear the roaring waves from the ocean. Let's speak to him and find out. How are you coping with this?
Togi Emmanuel Anumutete is my name. In verse, we are almost in a desert now. The sea had devastated everything, spoiled everything around us here, affecting our day-to-day living. Because we are fisher folks, we do fishing for a living. But very unfortunately, because of the tidal wave, we can't fish anymore. And living a day with our children is causing water and firewood. We don't know how to express it. You see, one important thing I have to let the government know, which I believe the government hasn't known yet, is the government belongs to all of us. The sea is very close to the street now, and some just few meters to the lagoon. Immediately the sea enters the lagoon. It's flowing because there's water, the lagoon is there already. The sea will flow into the lagoon as it is happening now. And the lagoon overflood. By the flood, it's going to Agbozume. Affecting Agbozume, if we don't take time, it's going to Ho, and it will affect the whole entire country. So we are advising the government to come to our aid immediately. We don't have even food to eat. You see, nothing to wear. This is what I wear in the morning since yesterday. My things are in the water. I can't change anything. You see, same thing applies to everybody in the community here.
Thank you very much for talking to us. This old woman you're sitting here are waiting for church service to end. So as a presence and worship goes on in there, many of them, I'm sure, are not really hoping for it to finish anytime soon. They have to pray to God. They have to worship their Maker and give thanks and praises to Him. And these old women here are also praying for this church service to end so they can come in there and sleep. Ernest.
Maxwell, for bringing us live details from Salakope, where the shelter is. Many of them seeking, some rest at the church there. And to move this conversation forward, we have Suleimana Isifu, the Director of Research at the Center for Climate and Food Security and Research Fellow at the Hans Rothenberg Institute in Germany. Joydeep Gupta is also Director, Third Pole Organization. He specializes in climate change, and Joydeep is also a veteran journalist with deep knowledge of COP negotiations. And we're learning, let me start with you, Mr. Joydeep, we're learning of a U-turn by some of the G20 nations in terms of financial pledge to Africa to deal with climate change. How can Ghana position itself to attract some good funding?
Well, the report that I have just been seeing is exactly the point that Ghana should be making at the Glasgow COP right now, and both before and after. Because as the old lady said to your reporter, the ocean used to be very far, but it's come much closer. So, and that is a direct impact of sea level rise, which in turn is a direct consequence of climate change. And it's obvious that when such a thing happens, the government has to find a lot of money to resettle people. Where will any government, especially a developing country government, find this kind of money? This has to come from the polluters. The polluters, which are the rich nations, which have put 80% of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere today since the start of the industrial age. So that's the whole point of the negotiations going on right now in COP26 and has been going on, unfortunately, for a very long time without any resolution. To specifically to your question as to how Ghana or any other country for that matter can get the money, I wish I had the answer. I wish anybody had the answer, because then we wouldn't have these protracted, decades-old negotiations going on without any resolution. As of today, even in COP26, I do not see any resolution happening in this COP on the basic and fundamental question of finance. It looks like it will get deferred to the next COP again.
And why is that? Why the sudden change in position by many of the G20 nations, which was not the case ahead of the summit?
No, it has always been the case that they will stop and talk, but not come up with any money. So there is a lot of big talk. There is a lot of big talk in COP26 about countries, big countries, going net zero in terms of their emissions in year 2050, 2060, 2070, whatever, by which time most of the leaders making those pledges will be dead anyway, so they don't have to live up to those pledges. So the question is, the rich countries are pushing back action, the rich countries are pushing back support, and the developing countries are protesting, and the developing countries should protest. We definitely need an international system where a polluter, however rich he or she may be, however rich that country may be, can be held to account.
Very well. Can you hold the line for me? Isifu Suleiman is on the other line with us. He's Director of Research at the Center for Climate and Food Security. So, I mean, whilst the Minister talks about a land reclamation project, for instance, as part of the phase 2 of the Blekusu project, is that environmentally sustainable?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers. For sure, it is just a drop in the ocean. I mean, to attempt to reclaim lands that have already been devastated as a result of tidal waves. Because if you look at the full gamut of the problems that tidal waves pose, you would see that land reclamation is just, a tip of the iceberg. Because when we talk about tidal waves, we are talking about the underground water becoming salty. We are talking about people losing their livelihoods. We are talking about the freshwater aquifers being destroyed as a result of the tidal consequences of the tidal waves. So land reclamation is the least of the steps to take when you have a situation such as we are witnessing in Ghana currently. So we need a comprehensive approach. We need an approach that is that has very far-reaching implications, and not merely going to tackle the issue on the surface, and then the next time we have the problem resurfacing. So it is time that Ghana sat down and began to talk about climate change into details. Because some of these promises, reclamation of land, resettling people, these are political in nature because it makes the politician looks good. But when it comes to the heavy lifting, the core question about tackling the problem from its roots, most politicians would like to run away from it because that is where the difficulty is. The difficulty is not about, relocating people. The difficulty is not about just building some walls to shield off the land from the devastating effect of the waves. That is not where the issue is. The gravamen of the issue actually lies in investing money into research, investing money into research that will bring up solutions that will nail the problem once and for all, and not some of these superficial approaches that only make politicians look good.
Mr. Suleiman, I want you to hold on. Let's listen to the Lands and Natural Resources, the Works and Housing Minister, I beg your pardon, Francis Asensu-Boakye, who says that the 2022 budget presentation will provide details of the second phase of the Blekusu Coastal Protection Project expected to address the perennial tidal flooding in the Ketu South municipality.
It is important to note that in April 2021, a technical team from the Hydrological Services Department of the Ministry, upon my directive, traveled to the affected communities to engage the municipal chief executive and some community leaders on the matter of the implementation of the second phase. I also had the opportunity to lead a technical team to visit those communities to have a first-hand understanding of the matter and the situation on ground. It is envisaged that the completion of the works envisaged under the second phase of the project will cover a minimum coastal stretch of 8,000 meters, that is 8 kilometers. And this will surely ensure the total protection of the people of Agavaji, Salakope, Amuchuni, Adina communities and other affected communities within the constituency that continue to bear the brunt of these occasional disasters. The scope of works under the second phase of Blekuso Coastal Protection Project entails the construction of 37 armor rock drawings with land reclamation to protect 8 kilometers of coastal stretch. The ministry is currently actively working with the Ministry of Finance to raise the needed funding for the implementation of the second phase. I am very hopeful that the Finance Minister will touch on it in his upcoming presentation of the financial statement for 2022. Thus, in addition to protecting lives and properties, the works under the Blekuso Coastal Protection Project will protect the beaches and its environs against encroachment by the sea, address the current environmental deterioration, mitigate the social and economic consequences of beach erosion, and strengthen the economic and production base of the area through enhanced fishing and recreational activities.
And so that's the Works and Housing Minister, Francis Asensu-Boakye there. Let me start with you, Gupta. Given the level of erosion that has taken place, how should we approach this?
I'm sorry, the audio is bad. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yes, so the Works and Housing Minister gives details of, what the project entails, covering some 8 kilometers, 8,000 meters, I beg your pardon. Given the level of erosion that has already taken place, what will be your suggestion on how we should approach this project, the second phase?
Yeah, well, this is not a very sustainable solution. That's obvious. And pardon me for the disturbance in the background. I'm in the COB, which is a very noisy place. But the point I'm trying to make is that this solution is temporary. It probably has to be done right now, but it is not sustainable. How far will you take the communities back? How far from the sea will they go? Okay. With you are seeing the kind of high tides you are seeing, with the temperature being 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. At current levels of climate change combat NDCs, that's the nationally determined contributions, we are heading for 2.7 from 1.2. So at 1.2, you can see the kind of damage that you are seeing. Can you just imagine what will happen at 2.7? So definitely this is not sustainable. At the local level, I think the best possible solution is to really start planting mangroves there. The mangroves are the only solution which will reduce the strength of the high waves during the high tides. And that, I think, is the best adaptation strategy that that the government could adopt right now.
Very well. Thank you very much. That's Joydeep Gupta joining us there on this issue. Mr. Sulemana, let me take your thoughts on this. Whilst we wait for the project to start, what steps can be taken to alleviate the plight of the people?
So for sure, the government needs to put in an immediate solution, that is by way of relocating the people and finding ways to get the people to find other alternatives to livelihoods. I mean, this is for sure the interim measure. But as Gupta said, the solution actually is not about reclamation of land in the immediacy, because with the extent of the rise of the sea, as we are seeing, and almost all predictions are that Africa is almost seeing the highest sea rise, above the global average, even though we are the least contributors of climate change. Yeah. So with this trend, it means that the sea is going to rise beyond the so-called walls that we are trying to put in place. So for sure, what is scientifically proven is that the solution that is going to be put in place by the government currently is just a stopgap measure. So in the immediacy, if you ask me, I would say yes, government should go ahead, devote funds, and have this project implemented. But then in the long term, as Professor Mr. Gupta rightly suggested, we should be looking at an integrated approach that will incorporate other mechanisms, including planting of trees, looking at even introducing crops that have the ability to suck saline from the soil, because we know that this kind of trend would lead to contamination of the fresh water, which is only 2% or 3% across the globe. So the problem is far bigger than we are seeing, and we don't need a political approach. We need a scientific approach, and that is what we need to drum home. The politicians must know that this problem requires a scientific approach and not a political approach.
We'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your time. Suleimana Isifu is the Director of Research, Center for Climate and Food Security, and also a fellow at the Hans Radigan Institute in Germany. Earlier, we heard from Joydeep Gupta, who is the Director, Third Pole Organization, and also specializes in climate change, a veteran journalist with deep knowledge on COP negotiations. This is John News Prime with me, Ernest Mino. Coming up in business, Ghana to host governors of central banks and finance ministers from all over the continent as it signs an agreement with the African Development Bank to host its annual meetings next year.
It is welcome to ask some kind of support to deal with maybe the shocks that may have been, experienced as a result of the COVID pandemic.
You're welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. Ghana has signed an agreement with the African Development Bank as host for the annual meetings next year. The country from May 2022 will host governors and finance ministers from all the member countries of the bank to deliberate on key issues affecting the region. George Riafi has more.
The 56th annual meetings of the African Development Bank is expected to take place in Accra from 24th to 28th of May 2022. Is expected to help the bank to take stock of a lot of things that have happened during the year under review. It will also look at how member countries can be assisted, especially for those that have been hit badly by COVID-19. Speaking to Joy Business after signing the agreement in Accra, General Secretary of the African Development Bank, Vincent Melehe, noted that it is prepared to also extend support to any member country, including Ghana, if the request is made.
Usually member countries determine what they need and approach the bank, and each proposal or request is considered on its merits. And then the board of directors will determine whether such projects, such proposals meet the requirement for approval. So any country is welcome to ask some kind of support to deal with maybe the shocks that may have been, experienced as a result of the COVID pandemic. Mind you, all this has to be within the plans of the country.
On his part, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta noted that the meeting couldn't have come at a better time, that Ghana is recovering from the shocks of COVID-19.
I think we have to wait. Certainly the issue of youth and jobs is at the centrality of this, and really how to create an entrepreneurial state. I think it's our challenge in the years ahead. So it's an exciting and difficult time. I think we need to take the bull by the horn and tackle it and create a mechanism in which the youth, the various enablers, as in IT and credit and training, will be brought to the fore, and so we can kill this canker. Yeah.
This will be the second time in 2 years that Ghana will be hosting the annual meetings of the African Development Bank.
Government could turn to the Bank of Ghana for financing if it fails to enter the international capital market next year to issue a Eurobond. Now, that's the assertion by the international research institution Red Intelligence. Charles Nixon-Yeboah has more.
This is coming despite the governor of the Bank of Ghana ruling out providing more loans to the government to help narrow the budget shortfall, saying it will put exchange rate stability at risk. During the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Bank of Ghana lent 10 billion cedis to government to mitigate the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the economy. But Red Intelligence says the lack of Eurobond finances raises the questions of which other funding sources are available for the government to finance the budget deficit and upcoming debt maturities. The government has frequently turned to the Bank of Ghana for funding when sufficient funds have not been available from other creditors, most notably in August to December last year. The central bank has stated in September that it had an understanding with the Ministry of Finance that a third of $1 billion special drawing right from the International Monetary Fund is on loan to the government. To this end, Red Intelligence said the governor had directed the central bank's research department to make the necessary adjustment and not to classify that type of financing as central bank funding because of the source of financing. Meanwhile, foreign investors in both Ghana's Eurobonds and its local currency debt would keep a close eye on how the government manages the funding squeeze during the final quarter of this year.
Now, government is expected to hold a crunch meeting with unionized transport operators tomorrow over moves to increase transport fares. George Riafi once again has been following this development and gives us more in this report.
Joy Business understands that this emergency meeting led by the Transport Ministry is part of attempts to prevent these transport operators from going ahead to announce their own fares without government's blessings. We are learning that the Ghana Private Road Transport Union had last week taken a decision to increase fares from today without government's approval. However, it appears this notice from the Transport Ministry about this meeting forced them to freeze this plan. This was based on government inaction or proposals to remove some taxes on petroleum products. GPRT is said to be going into this meeting with an entrenched position, and there's a likelihood that they will come out taking some decisions not in favor of government. It has always been the practice in the past to first notify the Transport Ministry about the need to increase fares. A meeting is carried out to consider the proposals, and government finally approves or agrees to levels seems to be fairly good looking at the current economic conditions. In this case, the Transport Ministry is acting as a regulator. Other groups expected to be in this meeting includes the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council and concerns transport operators. Adjusting fares this week, which is likely, could go a long way to increase the cost of living in the country in the coming weeks.
That'll be all for business. We have sports coming up. Do stay.
Many thanks for staying with us. Time to bring you sport. I'm Hans Mensah, and the Ghana Football Association has adopted the model of the English Football Association for its autonomous league expected to start in the 2022-2023 season. General Secretary of the football governing body, Prosper Harrisonado, has been explaining to Joy Sports why they chose the English model.
Premier League. We've heard it over the years that we must go autonomous. The word autonomous, I always say that there's no fully autonomous league anywhere. So the FA retains certain functions. Those functions can never move from the FA. But the management, the competition management of the league is what is assigned to a different company to handle. So we will have our version, which is akin, having looked at, the committee looked at the Nigeria model, the Australian model, we have the La Liga, the Bundesliga. The Dutch have their own version, Scotland have their own version, but we started to model our own to the EPL. I think that's the most established league, so we said, okay, let's not play around it. Let's aim at that and see how far we can get to what they are doing. So that's what has been accepted. So having said that, the company will be formed already. We've have written to the Registrar General to reserve the name.
Okay.
And so we would take it a step further from the company, which would be the ownership will be made up of the Premier League clubs, and then the FA would have a sort of a golden share. But refereeing, disciplinary committee, club licensing, those still remains with the FA. So that's why the golden share kind of thing is important. So the clubs cannot sit down and say they are changing referee without the FA's approval.
Now, Barcelona presented Xavi Hernandez as their new head coach in front of thousands of fans at the new camp on Monday. The 41-year-old Barca great signed his contract, which runs until 2024 on the pitch alongside club president Juan Laporta. Xavi joined Barca and after Barca paid his release clause with Qatari club Al Sadd. He will replace the sacked Ronald Koeman. Struggling Barca 9th in La Liga, 11 points adrift of leaders Real Sociedad and 10 behind rivals Real Madrid. After the presentation, Xavi talked about how discipline will be a major factor in his project as Barca manager. And that'll be all for sport. You can read more at myjoyonline.com/sports. I am Hans Mensah and many thanks for your time.
And I love showbiz on Mondays because not just because Noella Karinyale is here, but also because we get to know what happened, during the weekend.
During the weekend, that's right. And so, like you rightly said, over the weekend, Samini was on Joy FM, Showbiz A to Z with George Quay. And for the first time, he addressed the problems he has with his protege, Stonebwoy. For some time now, they've been going at each other's throats over what we all don't know. I mean,
very unclear.
Social media, exactly. But like I said, for the first time, he addressed it. We all thought they were in a good place, but apparently they're not as cordial, but they also bear no grudges.
He has a way of linking me on a message, and I have a way of telling him, cool down, maybe don't talk too much on radio, maybe do this, maybe do that. So if I know that me and you have that rapport, and I hear you on radio say that when you need me, I'm not there, it hurts. It makes me sick and break down. Like, is he saying that to just keep the thing going? Or is he saying that because now I don't know what's happening, but it looks like if I am part of the thing, then he doesn't look as prominent in the room anymore. Because I didn't get that response. I let that slide. Yeah? Then the main clash itself happens. Then you're on stage. Then Wale goes to select one of my songs. Then you take the mic and go like, if you're going to select a song, you're going to select a song from a father who sold his son out, from a godfather who has sold out. How did I sell out Stonebwoy if Ghana can answer me? You see, those were the things that hurt me. Because I don't know how or where or when I sold out Stonebwoy. So I don't have any grudge against my younger brother. He has tried to move to me for us to, catch a vibe, quickly, because we've not really had the time to sit down. But he keeps saying, I'll come home.
So he's made a move to make things right.
Of course,
That's
what I'm saying.
That's good.
Yeah, we're not as close, but we're not enemies. Because I believe that when someone realizes that there's some sort of miscommunication or something has been misconstrued, and they want to address it
and make it right,
is better. It's a halfway solved problem than someone saying you can go to hell, I don't care.
Is it clear to you?
I mean, it's clear to me, and for me, what's important is the fact that they bear no grudges. That's what I'm taking out from.
Let's see how it goes.
Right. So let's move away from that and also talk about an event that family members of the late legendary Nana Mpedu put together in collaboration with Musica to celebrate his life. I mean, he's done so much for our industry.
Absolutely.
And so they held that event at Tesano. It was graced by a lot of industry folks, musicians and fans, well-wishers. And here are some of his colleagues sharing their fondest memories of this legend.
Met last time, about 1 month ago, we met. Then he was telling me he's not well. Now, so by God's grace, he will be all right. So later I heard that the man is dead. Oh, In fact, I feel pains.
Nana Mpedu happens to be an uncle of mine, especially coming from the Kwawu block. I keep on saying that the last song that he composed was my campaign song. So I really appreciate his efforts to me personally. But I think today is about Nana Mpedu, who I see as a product of Ghana. His contribution to the high life scene in our country cannot be underestimated.
Nana Mpedu needs a museum. A museum. Why am I saying this? Because this is a man who has released over 800 songs. He should have been a billionaire, you know, in Dallas, not in Ghana cities, if the system works right. You know, the system in the music industry, the copyright and the royalties, you know. So Nana Mpedu's death have to give us a signal that something needs to be done.
Wow. Nana Mpedu was my very good friend. He was my good friend. And anytime he sees me, he says, Medi Huya. He say in Akan language, Medi Huya, papa, papa. Then I say, Nana, what have I done? You always tell me, what do you mean Huya? Why? And I go, oh, Medi Huya. What do you Medi Huya? Nana, just tell me, whatever it is, then I will beg you. Also, no, Medi Huya. Menya Kasa Medi Huya, Medi Huya. Then, after we all started laughing, then we found that it's a joke. It's a joke, so that's it. So we kept on saying Mediwuya up to now. Up to the last day of him, he said Mediwuya, and that's it. Anytime I see him, Mediwuya, and he says Mediwuya.
And I mean, what it is they didn't get a good deal like their counterparts in a developed country. But we are working assiduously on it. We are working so hard to make sure that those who are remaining get what they deserve before the Almighty God calls them. That's what.
Right, so those were some interesting.
Yeah,
that's right. But let's move away from that and talk about our favorite Auntie Cecilia.
Your favorite?
I mean, our favorite. Well, the news is...
she's still trending.
She's still trending on social media. And even more because over the weekend, she was billed to perform at a church with her once upon a time. I don't know whether that's called him an enemy or whatever. Well, but Brother Sami, I mean, whom once upon a time she slapped during, you know, a deliverance session. So yeah, they both performed a song at the church. And guess the song.
Washa was it?
Oh, you got it.
It's interesting.
Listen, I am happy she's not making a big deal out of
it. And also, most importantly for me, that this is like the bridge to, you know, solve their issues.
Yeah,
you know, because there was a grudge, essentially.
That's right. But that'd be all. That'd be all for Showbiz.
Thank you. My pleasure having you. And that's it for Showbiz. Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. The quest by the police service to arrest Medina MP Francis Xavier Susu will not materialize anytime soon. That's because the MP is on parliamentary duties outside the country. Mr. Susu is accused of destroying public property during a street protest. He was expected to show up in court Monday, but that did not happen. Court correspondent Joseph Akable monitored proceedings and filed this report.
Private legal practitioner Victor Adaudu explaining proceedings to some residents of Medina who pitched camp at the Kaneshie District Court to support the legislator. Police prosecutor ASP Sylvester Asari told the court the MP was out of the country for parliamentary business. He explained the Speaker of Parliament had written to communicate this to the police. The case was therefore adjourned to November 16. The residents want the state to drop the case against the MP.
For the Speaker, once he's on parliamentary duty, there's nothing that they can do. But they have the information that hopefully by next week he will be touching down. somewhere Tuesday on the 16th of November. He'll be touching down. So they've adjourned the case to 16th of November, which is next coming week. And they are only hoping by that time he will be in. If he's not in, he is still on the parliamentary duty. And there's nothing that can be done about that.
I mean, this issue has been playing out in the media space for a while. I mean, as members of the constituency, how do you generally feel about all that's been happening? I'm sure you took part in that demonstration that was just basically about poor roads in your area.
First and foremost, again, let me say we're grateful to Almighty God. If the demonstration that we embarked, the good residents of Medina, taking it Aimensan, Kweman, Danfa, Adotema, Otinibi, and then getting to Amaya. As I speak to you, the demonstration that we embarked with the support of our MP, Honorable Lawyer Sosu, has yielded some positive results. As of last week, Tuesday, the contractor has moved to site. And as I speak to you now, right from here, when you move to the site, you will see or notice that the contractor is on the road and is grading the entire road. So, in the first place, you let the citizens of the Republic to understand that out of the demonstration that we embarked, there is a resource, there is a testimony.
Ghana President
The president should leave our father alone. We adore him. He has not committed any crime. Everyone demonstrates. It happened during the John Mahama era. If you ask for roads in parliament and they are not fixed, you can demonstrate.
The Konongo District Court has remanded the 5 students arrested in connection with the killing of a student at course into police custody. They are expected to return to court on the 15th of this month on a provisional charge of murder and abetment of crime. The court, presided over by Her Worship Joyce Bamfo, denied a bail request by counsel for the first accused, was granting police submission for time to conclude investigations.
The sober-looking suspects were ushered into the court through the back door. They were handcuffed, walking slowly and looking down all the way. The case was held in camera.
We were told initially by the divisional police commander that we were not supposed to film anything concerning what happens outside the court, even just to protect the identities of these suspects. Now, the hearing lasted for about 35 minutes.
Lawyer for the main suspect and first accused person, Richard Edudako, briefed the media.
They have been charged with the offense of murder. And as the Constitution stipulates, it's quite unfortunate that children at this stage will commit such a heinous crime. But it is an alleged offense until it's proven by the court of competent jurisdiction. At this moment, we prayed for bail for them, but the court refused the bail application on grounds that they are still assisting in investigations. But having regard for the Juvenile Justice Act, they are supposed to appear before the court in a week's time. So a week from today, they are coming to court on the 15th. Then the court will continue with their processes. The court has referred the matter to the Supervising High Court in Kumasi to ensure that the right processes are followed because of their ages. 2 of them are 16 years and other 3 are 17. So they will not go through the normal process that anybody like an adult will go through. So you realize that the court even closed its doors to everybody, including even those users of the court, for them to stay out. So they cannot go through the normal process just like any other person because they are very young.
The Konongo police say they've increased investigators on the case to fast-track prosecution. Chief Superintendent Shaibu Abubakar Sadiq is Konongo Divisional Police Commander.
We have within 6 months per the Juvenile Justice Act to finish trial. For that reason, we have put up an investigation team because you don't want one person to do the investigation, then slow down proceedings. So the command has added 2 other investigators, Chief Inspector and 1 inspector, to the original investigator to ensure that we are within the time frame.
Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Dr. Yaosei Duchum says bullying in schools must end immediately. Commenting on the murder of the 17-year-old Konongo Odumase Senior High School student, the minister said immediate action is being taken to ensure that no such thing occurs in any school across the country.
Strong discipline regime should prevail. This morning I had I would say, a very sad moment talking to the parent of Samuna Raran, a student who was stabbed to death at Konongo Odumase. Very sad moment indeed. Group of young men thinking. A young man thinking he's in Form 2, so he should direct what a Form 1 student should do. This has been something that has been part of our school's culture, and the time has come for it to end. Homeowing is a relic of the past, and it has no space in this century. Students go to school, and when they are new to the school and you happen to be in Form 2 or Form 3, you should be his keeper. We have to understand that we are each our brother's keeper and not our brother's oppressor. We need to make sure Form 1 students are welcome into our schools, and they are not oppressed by those who have been there for 2 years or 3 years. That homeowing should not be allowed to continue in our schools. Some have been maimed by their own kind. People who are supposed to be their friends begin to oppress them. And that environment does not allow our schools to really go for the optimum in terms of performance. Because when children are afraid every day, how can they learn? And how can they achieve? So my heart goes out to the family, and we are going to do everything together with the law enforcement agencies that even though we've lost a great person, a great son, justice will be done.
Now, police prosecution has completed investigations into the case of a 47-year-old Pamoin Tapa accused of murdering 2 people at Wawase in the Fija-Kwabre South District. Kwejo Edusei is accused of killing 2 elderly men, Openyin Edu Eje and Openyin Kwame Kwache, aged 84 and 86 respectively. Ohim Interior of our security desk was in court and has filed this report.
Edusei is also accused of killing a 3rd person, Kwesibanahini, on the farm, but police are yet to charge him. The killing of 3 persons in 2 days threw the Wawase farming community into a state of mourning. The suspect is said to have told residents he killed 2 of his victims, including a friend, because they appeared in his dream undertaking acts he was not pleased with. He was arrested on October 9, 2021, after he killed 2 persons, same day with the cutlass he used for tapping palm wine. Relatives of victims, clad in red and black, were in court on Monday in their numbers to monitor proceedings. Police prosecutors informed the Mampontin District Court investigations into the killing of Openia J and Kwache have been completed. Detective Sergeant S.K. Opong, who led prosecution, said a duplicate docket has been sent to the Attorney General's office for advice. He pleaded with the court to remand the suspect into prison custody, whilst police wait on the advice from the Attorney General's office. The court, presided by His Worship Thomas Oyori, remanded the accused person and adjourned proceedings to December 3, 2021. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohim Interior reporting.
The Ministry of Education says it is rolling out plans to build boarding facilities along a number of the E-Block senior high schools started under the erstwhile NDC administration. According to the Minister, Dr. Yaosei Duchum, this is in furtherance of government's plan for increased investment in science, technology, engineering and math education in Ghana. Kwekwa Santi has more in the following report.
Things are shifting. Things are changing. And what do we need to do? What we need to do is to change our education system to meet that need. And to meet that need means that we need to focus on STEM education.
Dr. Yao Osei Edichum has explained the new focus of his ministry is to make science, technology, engineering and maths education in the country attractive as a sure way of growing the country's economy. The ministry, in partnership with the Academic City University College, organized a forum to discuss STEM education and how all stakeholders can come together and ensure its success. As part of this, the minister says government will begin the institution of an incentive system to ensure more STEM teachers accept postings to rural and deprived areas.
We have to address incentives for teachers in rural areas. Ghana Education Service is working on this issue, and I want them to speed it up so that that system can be created, so that there will be no school in this country without a teacher.
Senior high schools have also been built from scratch across the country as part of these efforts, which will focus largely on STEM education.
So the infrastructure that we are doing is to reform systems that are already in place in our regular schools, as we also build facilities that will ensure that STEM can truly be practiced.
But not only this, the e-blocks built by the erstwhile NDC administration will now be equipped with boarding facilities.
Ensure that in areas where there are e-blocks and there are no dorms, of course e-blocks didn't come with dorms, there are no facilities for students to come there and for the schools to be operationalized. We are building dormitory blocks so that the e-blocks can also be operationalized for the benefit of the Ghanaian student. Those resources that were used in building the e-blocks were the resources of this nation. And the president has directed that we do everything possible to ensure that in cases where the e-blocks were not built in the middle of town and the schools cannot be open because students cannot just walk there, as is the case of Drobonso.
The selection of Academic City University College as the venue for this conversation was not coincidental. The institution offers world-class programs in technology and engineering, with a state-of-the-art and ultra-modern campus in Ghana. With a vision to become a world-class center for learning, innovation and entrepreneurship that nurtures future leaders who can innovatively solve complex problems within an ethical, entrepreneurial and collaborative environment. The University College says it's ready to play its role in deepening STEM education in Ghana. As part of the STEM efforts, government plans to grow the country's gross tertiary enrollment to 40% by 2030.
Gross tertiary enrollment ratio is one important metric that if you can track, you know your country is changing. So Ghana is 18.8%, South Korea is 96.3%, and that is why the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, during the last State of the Nation address, told the country that he wants to move the gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana from the current 18.8% to 40% by 2030.
And that's it for Joy News Prime. Many thanks for your company. We have more stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com.